Okay, we'll call the Government Education Committee to order. Any discussion from any committee members? Discuss items of interest? Okay, we'll move right on to the agenda. The agenda is a resolution establishing public hearing, local law number 1 of 2013, the local law establishing legislative districts based on the 2010 Census Board of Supervisors. The resolution. Supervisor Stark has asked to be the sponsor of this, is that correct, Jeff?
Yes.
And he's going to be the sponsor, and I will second it.
Chair, I'll ask a quick question.
Yeah, Tom.
Is this the same as was presented in the newspapers and to the general public when they went to vote on this?
I will ask the two gentlemen that brought it.
Or has this been changed since then?
No, I believe.
It is virtually the same except for District 1, I believe that is, in Minden, where it was taken 28 out of Minden and put into the next district that includes Palatine, where the 28 was added. And virtually, here's what it was. In the original plot, there was a street where it went back and forth like this.
I'd like to see the map.
And this,
Where's the map
yeah,
for
sure.
this?
Absolutely. Here's the maps. Here's the district change one.
Well, can we all have a copy of this? or-
Yeah, you can have whatever you want. All right, I don't have a copy
I'd
here,
like
so
one
if
too.
we can get our clerk to do that, that's fine.
We don't have a copy in here.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Well, basically what it is it takes what normally happens on the street, where it's split down the middle of the street, and the 28 people went into the other district, so that the street acted as the border. So pretty much that was the, so the changes along the line of districts 1 and 2. There are 5 census block groups with a total of 8 people located on the western side of Wagner's Hollow Road, which is County Highway 48. Were included in District 2. They were moved to District 1 in order to make Wagner Hollow Road a clear divide. So that's usually how they do any block map, down the center of the street. And that was an error that was discovered after. Change 2, along the line between districts 2 and 4 near the western edge of the village of Fonda.
Wait, let's go back to change 1.
Yeah, change 1. Along the dividing line between districts 1 and 2, there was Wagner's Hollow Road, County 48. It weaved back and forth the original census block because of the census mapping. What's done is we took Wagner's Hollow Road right down the middle. That involved 28 voters, so it goes 28 to the other side. So you have to divide them. And then drew the district lines. All right?
What was wrong with having them in, well, I don't even know which district it was. What's the pink district here?
Pink district.
Well, you got the
Purple?
purple or pink, whatever you want to call it. Which is the, what district is that? The purple
You
district?
have, that's District 1.
So, no, District 1 is the green, isn't it?
No, we have Districts 1 and 2.
Ken, do you have a big night?
I don't know which one you guys are working off of, you're working off of the one that's
But do you have a large map of the county?
Which one was the last
Same one
one?
that we
Ken,
have.
what was the last one that was proposed to the public?
This is the one that I've got that was proposed to the public, so I don't know what's changed with this amendment.
Well, that's what I want. The one that was proposed to the public,
Why would you change anything?
right, that's what I'm saying. Why would you
It
change
looks-
anything?
Can I interrupt here?
Please.
Just as soon as I got this, I took to Doug Green's office. And if you remember back, it was mentioned by Doug at the time, there may have to be some very minor tweaks made to that to adjust that, maybe 25 or 50 people one way or the other. We're not talking about, I agree with Tom, you 100%, We're not making any wholesale changes on that map that was there available for the voters on the day they voted. That was in the library, it was in town halls, it was all over the place. And that should be the map we go by as close. I got Barb, I got Tom, when he gets done, I got Barb, and I got Tom, and I got Michael. So, but that was discussed in the beginning, and I think it was mentioned here when they met with when the Charter Commission met with the Board of Supervisors here, that was talked about that evening, if I remember. So, there had to be, he said, it wasn't set right down the exact number of people, but you're talking about moving 500 people one place and another, moving villages and towns around, all that kind of stuff. That's not, that can't happen. So, anyway.
Again, the only reason you're moving the 28 people, Tom, is so that that Route 48, County Highway 48, which is Wagner's Hollow Road, is so that it splits and has a clear dividing line. Otherwise, you have it goes back and forth across the district.
I'm not done yet, so. Next question I'll ask is, Ken, were either you or Doug involved in this?
Involved in,
This latest recent resolution that's on the table right now?
all I know, I'm talking to Doug, is that the resolution was dropped off into our office for us to prepare that, the map, to make sure that the resolution was proper. We have not had a chance to do that yet.
All right. This shouldn't be going anywhere, should it? All right,
Does a map exist with these new changes?
no.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I got Barbara next.
Thank you. One of the biggest concerns I had,
He's not.
oh, I'm sorry,
We
Tom.
got 5 other changes to go through. I want to go through each one
I
of them first.
thought you were all done, Tom. Okay.
Let's go through each one of these changes first. I think, first of all, I think this is haphazardly being done, that this is like a last minute thing. We're being handed this resolution here, and we don't have any idea what the changes are. The changes haven't been approved through planning, and all of a sudden, this is being shoved down our throats. This should have been something that went through planning, okay, and came through planning to the board, and recommended by the planning, our planning department. This should have been recommended by the planning department.
Where is that written that that's the procedure?
It's not written that that's a procedure, but the planning department was the one that worked on the original.
No, the commission did.
They were the ones that worked on it. They were the ones that drew the maps and made sure that there was so many people in each district. This map didn't come from the commission.
No, this
map came from planning department.
in conjunction with the commission. These 9 legislative districts were presented by the commission. Doug was involved in them to the extent, I don't really know. The commission was presented it. I mean, look, we can argue back and forth, but here's the facts. The votes are in. 62% of the county voters approved this change.
No, the charter.
Charter.
The 9 districts, not the map.
62%
Not this
of the
map, but
county
they did see a
voters,
map.
they saw this map,
Not this
with
one.
the exception of those little changes, those quirks. That's what they saw, that's what they voted on, 62% voted on. 66% in the city, 58% in the outlying counties. All right, so all this does is establish get it to a public meeting. Obviously, that's what the press, that's what the voters wanted. Without the attempt to gerrymander districts, because now people are afraid that they have to, that their jobs are challenged. That's what it is. Come on, the time is done. We're all done. Let's get the legislative districts out there. Let's stop the attempts to gerrymander.
The districts are out there, though. That's what I'm trying to say. They've been out there. They're already established on this map, which was presented to the people.
Okay, let's then, so you're okay with that?
I'm okay with this. This is
Okay.
exactly the way it
All
is.
right, I'll tell you what. Let's adopt it according to without these changes, and adopt that. Sponsor it, and we'll go.
I certainly would. Right here,
Go
this
ahead.
map.
Sponsor it. and we'll go.
Hold on one second. We have other people want to speak first. You want to wait a second here, Tom, then we'll go on to Barb, see if Barb gonna-
Sure.
Okay.
I do agree with Tom that when we tell the people one thing and then we present something else, it's completely dishonorable. And when we're telling them that there's 3 supervisors from the city and there's actually only one singular just from the city, the other are all going to incorporate either the town of Amsterdam or ones with joined with Florida and Mohawk, but that always was.
This doesn't
So-
change that.
I'm just saying, when there was a massive push, the robocall, the commissions, it was pushed that there was going to be 3 solidified from the city. That wasn't true either. So I think that Tom has a very good point that that map was what was sold to the people. So keep it like it is. Thanks, Jeff.
Withdraw those changes.
Yep, thank you.
Tom is next,
I just want
then
to
Michael.
make sure I understand, and I hope that Doug will help you too. The Board of Supervisors passed a resolution to form a charter commission and gave them the challenge to form a commission, to form a charter. And they did that. And they did that, and it was put before the people to vote on the charter and to vote on 9 legislative districts, period. The map, while people may have seen 8 different maps, was not part of the vote on November 6th. The map. They may have been shown a map. They may have been shown a map over here. They may have been seeing an idea that I would have liked, or somebody else would have liked. But they did not vote on a map. The people of this county knew full well that the Board of Supervisors was going to vote and determine the lines at the end of the day, the salaries.
I don't agree, no.
Am I right or wrong?
No, I don't agree.
No, because this map was definitely published in the newspaper.
I understand it was published, but that's not what's voted on. They weren't voting on a map.
They were
Yes, they
voting on
were.
9 legislative districts set up by this map.
Not,
They would look at the
Do I have the
roads.
floor, Larry?
Sorry.
Yes, you do.
I'm asking Doug, did they not vote on 9 equally divided legislative districts that the Board of Supervisors would adopt? But not that particular map, or my map, or your map, or anybody's. They just agreed in theory there would be 9 districts divided equally. Or am I wrong?
That is correct.
That
That is
is
what
what-
happened. You asked a couple of questions in there. Certainly, the referendum that went to the public called for the adoption of the charter, which calls for 9 districts, and that did not specify the boundaries or
No.
outline the boundaries. With respect to the issue of everybody knowing that it was going to be determined by the Board of Supervisors afterwards, I'll just say anecdotally, I have run into a heck of a lot of people who think they voted on this map.
And I've run into a lot that
Which they
didn't
did
even
not.
see it. And who are aggravated somewhat over the way the lines are drawn. But
Well, the lines
point-
are not drawn at the moment.
Exactly, they aren't, and that's my whole point.
Can I interject something here?
But
Just quickly. The law says that when you change from the Board of Supervisors to a county legislature, it's the Board of Supervisors' responsibility to establish the number of legislative districts.
not the number, but the lines.
To establish the lines of legislative
Right.
districts.
Yes.
That's the
And the
outgoing.
salaries.
That's our responsibility to set those lines of
That's
those
right.
districts. That's exactly right. The only thing is, my opinion is, and I agree with Tom, that map was in the libraries, town halls, buildings, on the internet, all over the place, that map. If anybody had any interest in that map whatsoever, they felt that that's kind of what they was voting for. Like I say, but it was brought up that there might have to be 50 or 60 people moved a little bit to make sure that those districts were within that 5% leeway they're allowed.
Point is, Larry,
But you can,
people knew that the Board of Supervisors would be the determining factor of where the lines would
Well,
be.
I don't think so.
Huh?
I don't think so, no. I
Well,
think-
that's in the charter. It's in what they voted on. It says it, right?
At the next time, in 10 years, or when you do the next census, when you redraw the lines, then the county legislature.
There was a lot of things on the airways and
Appoints a
everything about how
commission.
much people would be paid. But that wasn't set in stone at the charter.
No, the Board of
It's determined by the
Supervisors set
board,
that
just
next
like
year.
the lines.
Yeah. Can I, you set, Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because I keep hearing people say 62% of the people voted on the proposed map. There was no proposed map, legally, that they voted on.
That's correct.
That's correct. I agree with you. And I said, it's a responsibility of this Board of Supervisors to set the district lines when you change, Window County, this type of thing, when you make the change, it's up to that board. Same way it's up to this Board of Supervisors to set those salaries for those people next year.
The last question is, if there's not an agreement on those lines, Doug, what happens? There was nothing that was voted on. No, you're right, you would go to court, exactly.
Because all you're
That
doing-
proves my point.
All this resolution is doing tonight is asking you to establish a public hearing on January, what's the date, right?
Yeah, but you want to establish a public hearing on something that's defined and known.
Well, yeah.
Not something that we might come up with within a week.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I believe you
the
need to
local
have,
law
somebody
on
like
which the
Vincent-
public hearing is based has to be specific. If this,
No, but I
if
think
these
somebody like you
descriptions
needs to
differ
come and
from
show
this
us
map,
the
you've
map and how
got
those
to
numbers
decide to do it one way or the other.
Genesee County,
Yeah.
Portland County.
Yeah.
That's how you're exactly right.
Yeah, you know, or some other version for that matter, which they do
Okay.
exist.
We have a little order here. Whoop. Pardon? I got Michael now. Oh, do you have anything more?
Yeah, the point I was making was, if you had Vincent, who I believe is the one who had most of the input drawing it up, come in, show us, because if there needs to be a little bit of rigging around here, it could be done before you present it to the public. Because you know what? You may think 28's just a little bit. I may, as Tom says, thinks it's a lot. It wasn't what he believes was presented. I may not think it's enough. Somehow we gotta have to come to an agreement on what they are, and how do you do that? You get back together and you do it.
Here was my plan. I dropped this off to as Ken said, I dropped it off to Doug the other day, the first day I got it. I said to Doug, go through this thing. He's gonna go through it. He's gonna break it. Yes. Anyway, and he said he would confer with Jeff about the whole thing and give his opinions on what he thought. And at the next Government and Education Committee meeting in January, just what you're talking about, if anybody has any problems with this thing, you can talk about it, decide what you want to do, or whatever you want to do. I got you right after,
Motion to table?
second on that?
This is committee, right?
It is
Motion to table?
No second? Michael?
My next, I speak.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. You have a legal document in front of you, basically. What has happened here is you have meets and bounds. Those meets and bounds will determine who gets a little card that says, you're now in this district. They have to send it to everybody. And here's where you go. So the most important document here is the west, east, and every other thing that's on this. So I went to Doug Green, because I did my own. When he gave me the map, he was nice about that. I got another map. I drew on it. And I'm interested in this being gone over and making sure that where it says southwest and everything else, and it actually is, it isn't east. All right? I think a lot of work has been done on this. What I would like to see is something from the county attorney who will have read this. I don't know who he has to go with and do this and tell us that it's all been properly written. I think that's the key. You think people are going to see this, and all the people, they're right. There's a matter here, and I'm for the charter, I'm for the 9 districts. There's a matter here of trust. Regardless of all you want to talk about, no matter what you want to talk about or say. There was something printed, there were people that looked at it, they weren't looking for anything else, they says, here it is. If they're going to think that you're going to start they're going to use everything. This is being done for this purpose, this is being done for that purpose, and probably being done legitimately. I'm not criticizing that because of the lines. But you have to be very careful on how it's presented. You don't want a Donnybrook started on every radio talk show, on all the newspaper articles that we're trying to pull something. All right, because that's gonna put a sour in everybody's mouth about this. This is what's gonna count. If you're gonna go to court and says, wait a minute, I think I'm over here or I'm over there and I want to run, you're gonna look at this. This is what you're voting on. You're voting on the meets and bounds. You're voting on up and down. And I went through my district, and I had a couple of questions, and I'll probably go to Doug because I thought some of it maybe should have been a different direction, but I mean, that's just normal. And I think somebody has to do that and come back to say that they could draw it. I guess we're all the new software. you probably could plot that in and it would come right out and plot it right on that map and show that you were correct. Because that has to be written. So I would like something from the attorney to say that, yes, this is all correct.
That's why I went to Doug and I asked Doug to look this thing over and
Because that's the key.
do some conferring with Jeff.
I would just suggest that, that's fine.
Excuse me, I still have the floor. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, Doug is giving us something in here.
That's fine, but in order to do that, we need to know, I take it that these descriptions of the districts as written in this proposed resolution are with the quote-unquote tweaking of the
That's right.
28 people here and so many people
No,
there
no idea.
and so forth. I believe that to be the case. What we need to know is, do we want that tweaking, or do you want to go with the exact map that everybody keeps referring to that has no official status at the moment, but it seems to have been linked to the proposal all the way through? Because it's two separate sets of descriptions.
Well, you would know that once this was all plotted out. I mean, did anybody really go over this and go up and down and on the map and draw it all over? I
No,
did on some of
what
it.
I'm saying is, which way do you want it? You need to decide that first.
Personally, I think you'd be very careful if you touch that map.
I'd like to ask that question, if I may too, just so that we're all clear on this. Do the descriptions in this proposed resolution reflect the tweaking that, Jeff, that you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's what.
So they're not
we were in touch
identical
prior
to the
this.
districts in the map?
We were in touch prior to this with Doug to provide us the block mapping, all right? We were unable to get that. So we ended up using block software that, and when we looked at the districts, how they were drawn, because they were roughly drawn by the commission, what we found is that on Wagner's Howell Road, all right, it jutted in and out. So you would have your neighbor on the same side of the street may be in District 1 and you're in District 2. So following the norms of what you would draw for your meetings and bounds for legislative districts, they usually split them split them down the street. So all of these legislative districts, all these 4 changes, we took Wagner Howell Road, that was 28 people on this side of the street, was moved into that, because it was alternated back and forth along that street. So we made the middle of the street the boundary. All this does is define the meets and bounds, so it uses a street or a, like the Canada-Harry line, along between 5 and 9, the Change Street, the vicinity of Quistlow, along the Mohawk River. It gives, for simplicity's sake, the boundary line is amended to follow the city of Amsterdam line. That's all it's doing. It's giving you clear meets and bounds so that it doesn't have confusion on some of these things and it juts back and forth.
May I make a suggestion? Along the lines of trying to eliminate confusion, before you go too much farther with it, and I know this has to be accomplished, but either have a map created that coincides with these descriptions and take these existing maps and throw them away, or create descriptions that correspond to this map and throw these descriptions away.
Well,
But right now, you've got a situation where people are still referring to this map, but now the descriptions, even though the differences may be very subtle and slight, there are differences.
However, if you adopt the present map as it is and draw meets and bounds to it,
Yeah.
what's going to happen is you're going to have 101 and 102 on Wagner Road, and then you're going to go 90 degrees to the west side of Wagner Road, and house 113, 114 is in District 1. It's not going to be, adopting this for simplicity and drawing the lines to that is something that we can, what this really does is gets it on, because the soonest that we can get is January 22nd for a public meeting. All right? For the public hearing. All right? You have to then bring it to the full board, you have to tweak any changes, and you have to get it back probably around March, because people are gonna wanna know, maybe April or May, if they're gonna run for a legislative district, where the legislative district is, or you're gonna run into legal
I also
challenges.
remember the Board of Elections, when they have to send, every year they send out the election cards, you know, all that sort of stuff. They have to be sent to the proper people at district you're going to be voting in.
Right, and
Now-
they need the meets and
I want to
bounds.
move this along if I can. Michael, you set,
One other question.
one more question, okay.
There, throughout this, and I just did mine, there's a lot of census block numbers that are huge. And I was wondering why that was necessary, since I don't have a new census map.
Don't you have to use census block?
I know, but it's not there, so I assume it's okay, but I would also assume you would want to have that attached.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody really wanted to get technical and look at this, so they could see it, because it's replete throughout this,
Now, are you all set now?
for now.
Okay, Dominic was next, then Bill.
Yeah, my suggestion probably incorporates most of what was said. Where's Vince? Larry and I were probably the two supervisors that were at most of the meetings.
Yes, sir.
There were initial maps that were done by planning, but planning couldn't do it because of getting the numbers, the blocks together, and the population together. And eventually, you put up the presentation because 9 is very difficult.
I helped. I mean, it was obviously.
Well, I was there, so I saw you do it. You know, and it now comes to the Board of Supervisors. The best thing that you could have done, or we could have done, was for the board to be presented with the census block information that you used to see what the difficulty was with creating 9 districts, so that they at least know what the 9 districts are. All right? If we had that, then you would see the census blocks, you would see all of this other stuff. We can all agree on the map, you know what I mean? We'd have all of the abstract information. We wouldn't be squabbling. We wouldn't be rushing just because we want to get it done in a hurry because we don't want to make sure it doesn't get changed any.
That's right.
It's going to be there for the next 10 years. So you might as well do it and do it right. Why are you worried about 28 people? If they show you how they did it, and we hold a special meeting, could be another one a week from tonight, you know what I mean? And you can present it all. We'll all see it. We'll all know where it is. You know what I mean? Wagner's Hollow is in my neck of the woods. I mean, I understand how the road goes, you know? But I don't understand how the rest of them go.
Supervisor, I think there was a question there.
Yeah, the question is, can you present this to the board so in a format like that PowerPoint that we can see it?
Certainly, I think someone from the, I don't know that I would be the correct person to do it, but I'm sure somebody from the commission would be able to, and if nobody else, I can. And I would say anybody who'd like to give me, or any of the other 8 members of the commission who were just as involved.
I'd like to, I'd have the whole commission here, because they're basically the ones that established it, you know what I mean? And so present it to the board. They presented the charter, present the map.
Absolutely.
Let us see the map in total.
It comes down really to just making a legal description of the map that we did.
I agree. But you know, most people that have talked to me will say to me, they don't talk about the map. They'll say, you think it was a good idea? And then you know what they're talking about. Talking about the county executive. They're not talking about the 9 legislative districts. They're not concerned about one man, one vote. They're really not concerned about that. They wanted to know the leader. And so map is incidental to most people, truthfully, that I know of. These people may see different people, but that's, and I happen to be in St. John's with people from Fort Clay on Friday nights. You know what I mean? And they think it's confusing for them to be on the other side of the river. You know what I mean? It's not confusing for people in St. John's because I'm intact. You know what I mean? I'm in a Republican district, but I'm intact. You know? but the thing is, most people really want to know, what was that relationship? Why was that relationship? And I think if you give the presentation, they'll understand the relationship. and why it was done.
I guess, again, I'd say I and probably anybody else.
Whoever comes from